I just love this intro. I really do.
Right on cue, my dog decided to start barking.
I'm running something, so hold on.
Welcome to SUP, everyone. It's been a minute.
Love this intro. I really do.
Shelly is welcome to SUP, Shelly. Shelly is learning what Carrie has learned over time, the fun of doing the live, which is
Hold on.
running it and forgetting to mute yourself and then hearing us play in the background on the live. So welcome to SUP, Shelly.
Thank you so much. I think I figured it out.
Love Shelly.
Oh. Joanna, welcome back to SUP. It's been a minute. And we are so excited to have Deb with us tonight, but we took a little bit of a break because our last slated SUP date, the third Tuesday of November, was
Conference.
Right. We were very busy having our awesome annual conference. And so we did not come live, but we did actually, Carrie posted a little bit of our Sunday session where we did a special kind of reboot or reunion show where we had folks who've been on for the previous year and they came back for conference for a special event on our Sunday pre-conference intensive. And we had several of our guests from the previous year come back and do kind of a then and now, tell us what you're up to now. And that was very special. So Carrie posted that on Thanksgiving and we appreciate Carrie for doing that and miss her being with us tonight. So if you're out there, Carrie, much love to you. We're excited to have Deb with us tonight, but before we get to Deb Thomas, I want to say welcome to any of our certification course participants who are watching tonight, because Joanna and I participated in today and tomorrow and Thursday's trainer certification. We have 31 learners who are going through PAC trainer certification this week. So it's the last cert of the year, 30 folks who are going to become PAC trainers. And I said, come watch tonight on Straight Up Positive. And I boasted that we have a Canadian on because several of our learners are Canadians. So Deb, no pressure, but you're single-handedly representing your entire country. So no pressure.
No pressure.
None. No pressure. Also, Shelly, I know you've got some other things that are hot off the presses in the Paciverse.
Yes,
So,
I do. Let me share my screen. If you're
other
ready.
than our course that's going on, what else do we have?
Well, I thought I would share, of course, you know, we love having people come to our Facebook page and like us there and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we're starting something new on YouTube. We're going to have a membership service that you can, for, you know, like a monthly fee, 99 cents, $1.99, something like that, you can get access to certain videos. So more will be coming at our next one about that because we just got it started this week. But like Rebecca said, we started with our conference. Well, the conference recordings are now available to anybody and everybody, and they're on sale for $62.50. If you didn't come to the conference and you still wanted to see what it was all about and watch the over 1,400 hours worth, seems like, it feels like that much. Maybe it's not quite that much. It was 34 sessions, at least an hour to an hour and a half of each. So yeah, pretty good stuff. Anyway, you can get the recordings and watch them at your leisure at half price until the end of the year. The other big thing is for the next 2 weeks, we have a holiday sale going on our store. So if you spend $100, you get 20% off on all of the stuff that you buy, and you get a free set of greeting cards. And I have to say the greeting cards are pretty amazing. I've had my own set for quite a while. And I will actually buy some more if I don't do this before myself. But there's all kinds of things except bundles and group learning courses. So good stuff for yourself that you might want to buy. And then I wanted to tell you that, we talked about TikTok the last time, and we had over 5 million views and 1 million likes. Well, numbers as of today, look at that, 2.3 million likes on TikTok, and we have 178,000 followers in just 2 months on TikTok. I think that's pretty cool. We're going live 2 times a week on TikTok. Not we, TIPA and team in North Carolina are going live 2 times a week for half an hour at a time. And there'll be some more things coming from that. Next week, or not next week, but the next time we get together in 2 weeks, we're going to have another Canadian. We got to finish the year with our Canadian people. Isn't that cool? Iris Beer from the Jewish Family Services in Ottawa is going to be with us. And then next week, the week after, the 16th, whenever that happens, like I have chance, I don't know what time is time anymore, will be our last free webinar for the certified community for the year. And this will be led by Amanda, and we're going to be doing the 6th block of engagement leader. So be watching and planning to join us for that. And again, there'll be some changes next year in our free certified community stuff. Maybe we'll talk about them at the next one. And then the last thing I wanted to tell you guys about was that our next certification, since Rebecca mentioned that this is our last trainer cert for the year, January 25th through the 27th will be our next consultant certification. So you might want to get in there now and buy early with the early prices before they change for next year. So that's kind of that's a fast what's happening at PAC.
That was a fast and furious, but a lot going on. You know how some companies like slow down at the end of the year and like, well, take it easy. And then, it's a slow build up, March is when things get, no, not at PAC.
No.
That is not what happens. So Shelley knows, I think Joanna knows this, that I had recently have my 15, soon to be 16-year-old niece living with me temporarily, and I'm helplessly, not cool. And so I called TikTok Click Clock just because, I'm not cool. And so she came into the room the other day and she goes, guess who I saw on TikTok? Yes, Tipa's on TikTok. She's like, well, if Tipa's on TikTok, you've got to get cooler. Okay. And I'm like, great.
Yeah, thanks, Tipa.
Thanks, Tipa. Showing me up. I really appreciate that. So I guess I have to call it TikTok now instead of Click Clock. Anyway, so Deb Thomas, welcome to Straight Up Positive. See, I'm so hip. It's called SUP. Can't get cooler than that, right? Deb, welcome to SUP. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in this crazy Tipa snow pack world.
Well, my mother was diagnosed with dementia when we took her to the family doctor after a number of times and kept saying, we think so, but he was reluctant to put a label on. And I started to try and find out about it because I like to know, I like to understand what's happening. I'm a real head first person, got to have all that information. So I checked out the Alzheimer's Society stuff and anything on the internet that I could find. And most of it was the doom and gloom, and that really wasn't helpful. It wasn't what I was looking for. And my brother was dating a woman from Napa Valley, California. And she had heard about Tipa and said that I really needed to see Tipa. So I got really lucky. And in, I think it was, let's see, 2018 or so, Tipa came, December, Tipa came to Ontario and did a workshop for a day, and I was able to go to that one. And of course I was hooked because she not only gave me the information I was looking for, but gave me a way of supporting my mother that was constructive and that looked for where my mother was at and what she still had and how we could move forward. So that was really helpful to me. I then went on from there, and not, as soon as I could, there was a certification coming up for trainers. So I took the trainer workshop again. It was in Ontario towards Cambridge. And there I met Jessica Pelkey and Cheryl, and I can't pronounce her last name, but they were mentors in the course. And for me, I really wanted to be a trainer because I wanted to bring back the information. By then, my mother had fallen and broken her hip and had to move into a long-term care facility. So I really wanted to bring some of this information back to the staff. They were overworked, undereducated, didn't have the skills, and so they were doing a Band-Aid job. They weren't really engaging with the residents. So I did bring back my trainer and offered it to the staff. And because I was a volunteer and an essential caregiver, I was not seen to be high enough to actually have any skills, because they're professionals. They should already know everything there is to know. So it wasn't terribly well received by the staff. I did offer it a number of times to do training down to groups of 2 people, but still didn't get a welcome response to that. So I offered it to families and ran a couple of trainer sessions, and also to the contracted staff. So these were people who weren't a part of the organization itself, but the hairdresser, the physiotherapist, and people like that were kind of outside of the core group. And that went really well. So I was very encouraged by that. And meanwhile, I was still doing volunteer activities in Mum's nursing home. So I was able to run a little group for people like Mum. By the time she moved into the nursing home, she was dipping her toes into the amber state. And so I was working with people that were like Mother. And again, because I was running something, they kept other staff would come by and bring other people in. So, you're dealing with 4 ladies, and we're playing a nice little reciprocal game, and they're bringing in someone who's cognitively able, visually impaired. You're going, okay, so you can do this on the side, because you're not going to enjoy this game that we're playing. But anyway, it went well.
So let me ask you this, Deb. So I think it's really neat because you actually, you saw Tipa first as a family member. And that's how, many folks come as a family member, but then you came through what many folks that come through our certification courses are professionals in the industry, but you as a family member said, no, I want to do this certification and become a trainer so that I can take it wherever I can take it, whether that's to the facility staff, whether it's to other families. And then I also have the skills that I can lead groups, and have the skill set to engage with your mom in a new way. So I'm curious if you can share with our viewers. So because the vast majority of folks who attend our certification are professionals, can you share what that experience was like for you going to the certification course as a family member?
Well, I'm actually a retired occupational therapist. So
there you go.
I worked for years with children with multiple disabilities, and with a specialty with those who are non-speaking and technology. So adapting the environment and stuff. So dementia, when I found out more about it, was not very far away from the population I was very used to working with.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and also Tipa being an OT, that was gravy. Everything resonated that she said. And she, she's talking about skill, and I'm going, oh, I wish I'd known about the skill fingers versus the strength when I was looking at children. So you know.
Mhm. So it really fit with that past background and married it nicely with what you were seeing now with your mom.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And so you said that staff, I mean, you had, even the way you talked about the staff's skill level and lack of awareness. I mean, you spoke about it in such an uplifting, compassionate way, and I appreciate that. That there was just a lack of awareness, and yet you, being a family member, were not that well received to come in as a trainer, and that's unfortunate.
Yes. Yeah.
And yet it sounds like you lead by example in a lot of ways, because they see something that you're able to do and it's working, right?
That's right. And the days I volunteer, I wear my Positive Approach to Care t-shirt. So, and I keep offering that even if people just want to talk to me about dementia, but it's still, the environment up here has not supported our long-term care facilities in terms of bringing them forward into the 20th century. We're still back in the archaics, very medical model, very poorly staffed. The staff training, the training for people there's no specialty in geriatrics. So you are trained as a personal support worker, which is similar to the care support aides, or as a nurse or practical nurse, but not as a specialist, or not to understand what's really happening in long-term care. So they don't, and also there has been systemically no recognition of the fact that over 70% and probably closer to 80% of the residents of long-term care have a dementia or some type of cognitive impairment. So these people just aren't prepared to work with the population that they have, and no one has recognized that.
Well, I know you definitely are a mover and a shaker in that area, and we're going to get to that in your advocacy work. But I understand you didn't actually stop just at trainer. So you went to the trainer certification course first.
Yes.
And then you mentioned you connected with Jess and Cheryl Buchholz. And then you did another certification course, right? Tell us about that.
Well, I went on to a coach course because I was, with COVID, it was impossible to start doing public, so general public training sessions. And so I thought if I had the coaching skill, that it would further my knowledge and understanding of positive approach, and it would give me the skills to work more under the radar in terms of if I was trying to help a staff member, if I used the coaching skills instead of the training approach, that I could really help them to understand a certain little piece and give them a little bit of insight and perhaps and build some interest in finding out more about positive approach. So that was one of the reasons that took me to the coaching piece. And then the other was that I thought, with the advocacy, as you were just mentioning, if I can build awareness in the province of Ontario, in the rest of Canada, if that can work, for positive approach to care, that I would really like to support the mentors that are here, because they will need more people to help out in their courses, but also I have, with my background being an advocate in children's health, I ended up taking an MBA course in not-for-profit management. And so I have some of those skills, which really lead to writing proposals or writing submissions for going to conferences and that type of thing. And that's a skill that some of the mentors don't feel as comfortable with. So I figure if I can provide any support, then that's what I'd like to do. I have the time and I don't mind writing, so.
Wow. That's a nice offer. So you really are looking at how to support PAC mentors with your skill sets. That's really quite generous. And so for folks who aren't as familiar with our PAC certifications, can you clarify, because you said that the PAC trainer skills maybe weren't giving the trainer piece itself, that you weren't being given the platform to go in and do trainings, but that you thought that coach skill set, you might have more of an opportunity to use those skills. So for someone who isn't aware of the difference between PAC trainer and a PAC coach, could you explain how you might be able to use PAC coaching skills with residential care staff in a more subtle or casual way than an official training?
Okay. For one example, I was sitting in the dining room and we had a very nice young new recreation staff member with a lot of background and training come in, and he was sitting talking with this lady and doing a really good job with someone who was doing, I want to go home. I want to go home. I have to go home. I have to go home. And so he was doing the typical explaining, and we can't do that now. And, you know, we'll make sure. He was working and working, and he must have spent more than 10 minutes caught in the loop, right? And so I kind of went over to the table and said, and joined the conversation and helped to get the resident reoriented to the fact that it was time to eat and that she should be eating. And then when he was, after the meal was over, I caught him in the hall and said, you know, oh, by the way, you know, that it seems like you got a little stuck there. You know, what do you think was happening? And so we then worked on the coaching style, which is really to get the person to identify what they were trying, what might have worked, how, you know, how understanding what was going on. And in this case, he didn't realize the fact that she was stuck in the loop. He knew he was stuck. So there was a little bit of training to it. And then we talked about ways that he could approach this in the future and use a different strategy. So it was gentle and totally focused on where he was at. So and pulling out his understanding and then his strategies so that he would be able to retain them and use them in the future. So
very nice. So Deb, it sounds like you approached it in a way that, like, okay, so truly curious, how do you feel like that was going? Wow, I saw what you were doing, and how do you think that went? Like, how do you feel like that was going? Gosh, you were really giving it your all with her. And what are a couple of things that you feel like were going well, because that was a hard place to be with her? And what are some things, you know, what's something that you feel like could have gone differently? And then you had that teachable moment of, she was stuck and you were too. What might you try differently in the future? That's so awesome. And it sounds like he was receptive to that and didn't feel like you were coming down on him or saying you should do this, or.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. And so you mentioned about this, like writing and proposals, and I think you and Jess are doing some partnership. Our mentor, Jess Pelkey, can you tell us about what you all are working on? I think you've got some projects coming up.
Okay, so when COVID hit, Ontario experienced during the first two waves, 40% of the deaths in the province were in long-term care. I think it was 40%. No, 60%. So yeah, it was a crisis. And as a result, I mean, that's going to hit the newspapers. The politicians are all going to rally around because they fund long-term care. They fund the resident care. So they all rallied round to say, you know, we're going to do this person-centered care, and we're going to throw money into building new buildings, and we're going to throw money into staff, and and that was chatter for a long time. So I started doing some writing to politicians about positive approach to care and really looking into where some of the problems were. So things like staffing. So our personal support workers, research done before COVID was that this is where the 40% of the PSWs either didn't finish their college course or within a year of finishing left the career. And then of the remaining ones, another 40% of the ones that remained left within 5 years. So they weren't training enough personal support workers to fill the void or to get ahead. And so as a result, all of the homes were experiencing staff shortages and all kinds of difficulty, of course, high rates of injury. Second highest to hospitals in the province was staff in long-term care. So, but the politicians weren't looking at that piece. They just said, okay, well, we need to hire more, so we're going to just train more, we're going to accelerate the program. So that's when I thought, what they really need to do is train the people running the college programs on positive approach to care and to run the typical training. So these people could become trainers. They just run all of the classes through the 10 hours or so of positive approach to care. And then at the end, you would have the PSWs understanding dementia and having a much better person-centered approach to dealing with any of the residents that they worked with, or anyone if they ended up working in people's homes or in the community. So that was the first piece of the proposal, was to look at doing that type of education and maybe expanding it to the college-trained nursing, the nurses' aides, practical nurses. Then a piece was to add training for the staff in all the long-term care homes for a 3-hour compulsory webinar, positive approach to care webinar for all the staff, so that they would repeat that each year, and it could be changed up as you wanted, and then making a library of other resources available. And then the third piece was to look at a geriatric, any of the professionals like nursing and doctors and allied health professionals to get a geriatric specialty would take the PAC Champions courses. So that was what the proposal was, and that went into the ministry in July to the Recovery and Response Committee. And it's government, you know how things go, but we are building awareness. And that's what I thought, is that when I see anything coming out publicly, here they talk about the Greenhouse Project, and they talk about the Butterfly Project and those types of things, which are very expensive models because they also require changing the whole infrastructure. So I was trying to bring in positive approach to care, which if you're eventually going to end up there, you need these skills along the way. We need them right now in the hands of the staff. So my thinking was, not enough people here in Ontario know about positive approach to care. So we are moving that forward too. So again, letter writing campaigns, contacting associations that are involved in long-term care, contacting any special interest groups, our local Alzheimer's Society, I've been a little sad about because they're not really facilitating it the way they could be, whereas other parts of the province, they are. So anyway, we're building this information, or hopefully we're building awareness on our way to building knowledge of positive approach to care. And we're also looking at presenting at conferences. So just to get the name out there. and product awareness and brand recognition and that type of thing. So people start to think about it.
So you've presented this proposal. So what does that mean? So,
Okay.
because you proposed it.
Yes,
Is it in a
they've
holding
received
pattern?
Yes. Well, it's government. We know what government does. They hold on to it for a long time before there's action, but they have officially received it. So they've acknowledged that they've received it. And again, we're waiting. But then I got invited to be on another committee, and today I submitted something for that committee that works around to how we should have person-centered care, how we're going to embody that person-centered care, because they're looking at, quality indicators. So how do we do that? And what means could we do it? And again, positive approach to care. So again, I'm working on recognition, and we will just keep pounding on them until they start to listen.
You are just a mover and a shaker. Do you sleep? Are you like Tifa? Do you just not sleep? Is that what it is?
I don't have a job, so I got time.
So you're not only wanting to you're working on so many different levels. So at your mom's community level and really trying to work on all these different levels. And so I know Joanna had a question really looking at, and I'll let her unmute and ask you that question, looking at what are you seeing? What are you seeing as far as your efforts? Because I know that's what we do want to see. We want to see change, and you're working your tail off. So Joanna, what was your question for Deb?
I'm gonna try and remember it. I'm just kind of sitting here in awe listening to you, Deb. It doesn't sound like the community knows what a gem they have in you, and I would just feel so lucky anywhere that got to have you and listen to you. I was just wondering if the staff ever observed you interacting with your mom. And I may be confusing this, but I thought I heard you say that you were volunteering where your mom resides, and since the staff was kind of not ready to receive what you were bringing, were they able to observe the successes of your interactions with your mom? I think is where I was trying to go.
Well, since COVID, Mother's moved on to a Pearl state, so it's a little harder, and she's a very quiet Pearl. So there are no responsive behaviors or personal expressions, as we are calling them now up here. So she's pretty quiet, but I do interact with some of the residents who aren't as quiet and who have much more responsive behaviors. And so staff have seen me interact with them, but again, they don't have time. And even the good ones, the ones that have been around for 20 years, say, we used to be able to do this, we used to have time, we used to be able to really connect with people and understand what they liked and stuff. And now we just got to get the checklist done. We go home, wake up in the middle of the night going, I forgot to do this, I forgot about care for that person. Did I leave so-and-so on the toilet? They're going home in a wretched state. So
and that's terrible to hear. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon to hear, but and I'm looking at it through different eyes, but I would imagine if someone came in like you and said, I would like to help you make your job easier, more enjoyable, have more successes, not be so fried at the end of the day, I would hug them, biggest bear hug, and we we would find the time. Somehow, I mean, this is of course me looking at it through different eyes, but I don't know if that is necessarily if they can hear that there's a gift in there for them, that I understand that there's all of these things that legally have to be done, but that there is this huge gift in there. And once they get this, it actually doesn't take more time.
Right.
But I wonder if they're even able to hear that, because if somebody told me, I'm here to make your job easier, not just, to teach you how to, do better with the residents, to make your life in this position you have better, more enjoyable, who would say no to that?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
my just rhetorical question.
I haven't gotten there yet. Again, I've just, as of 2 weeks ago, started volunteering again. So even the modeling and that type of thing hasn't really happened. And I mean, really the homes are in a crisis. We are moving, this is guaranteed, we are moving towards 4 hours of care per resident per day. So that's when a really big transition is going to have to happen for staff who have been used to doing the jobs and taking any minute they can to sit down and kind of relax and take a deep breath. They're not used to spending time with people and making connections. So they're really going to have to learn new skills to make that change effective. Otherwise, I don't know.
Can you tell us what that means? What does that mean?
Okay. Right now, like when you take all of the residents and you divide them by all of the staff time, each resident is getting 2 hours and 45 minutes of care a day maximum. So that means bathing, food, medications, any nursing care, any personal care, the time that the physio assistant spends with them, any kind of care, that's all they're getting. So like my mother needs assistance to eat. So there's 3 hours of care that she really requires in a day, but she's getting, so she's getting, feed this one, get up and get something else. And, that if she's awake and her eyes are open, that's a really good quality time to connect with her. So, it's really sad.
There's a maximum, tell me, I don't mean to sound unaware, but I am unaware. So there's this, a maximum amount of time or a minimum amount of time?
Right now, that's the actual amount of time that they're getting. Currently there is no minimum amount of time. But
so you were saying something about the 4 hours.
New law is bring it up to 4 hours. So that means essentially that what changes is that there'll be more staff.
Yeah.
The government will fund the facility to have enough staff to provide 4 hours of care per resident per day. So how does that work when people are in different gem states? Good question, Joanne.
Yeah, I think we're all just kind of, I'm a little speechless. I'm thankful that Joanna can write in the chat for this at the moment, because
Just going several different directions, wondering, I'm assuming that the folks, like most of us in life, don't see that this would ever be a possibility for us to be actually receiving, living in a long-term care memory facility. They may not even be connected to anyone that is in a long-term care facility. And so that motivation, you've got motivation all the way around you. I mean, you're just this amazing individual. I have the motivation from where I'm sitting, and Shelley and Rebecca have the motivation. It's like I wonder if they know what the likelihood, what the percentage of them having someone close to them needing not care, but good care, right? And what how that is going to affect their relationship, and also the possibility that they may be the person needing care also. I'm going a million different directions, so I apologize for that.
And yeah, and I worked in memory care for a few years, and I mean, in an assisted living facility, I guess I've just never heard it quantified in that way. So I think that's why I'm kind of like a little bit mind blown to hear it in that number, to hear it given a number. And I put myself in that situation, yes, in a similar way, Joanna, that I thought, okay, if someone were to quantify how much personal engagement or involvement I were to be given a day,
Yeah.
and if it were given 2 hours and 45 minutes, that's just,
Even if everyone even if the whole facility was in a Ruby state, they're different people.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're gonna have good days, bad days,
Mhm.
successful moments or interactions with certain staff, and maybe a phone call from a family member triggered something, or a visit, or a canceled, bingo or whatever. I mean, oh my gosh, that's, I don't see how that could ever be a success if they keep going with you're going to be allotted this many hours, and we don't, it doesn't matter what you need, this is what you get.
The critical thing is that it's bringing it up from abysmal to at least something manageable.
Right.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you for bringing us back on track, because Joanna and I are going down a very bad rabbit hole, and we will talk after the show, because we took it from straight up positive to straight up
I know.
That's right.
Down in the hole, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But I was also thinking what Deb was saying, at least this is the first step, right? To get that recognition. And isn't that always what we're trying to do? Is we've got to bring people to an awareness of how bad things are, so that we can get what we need, right? And it's a huge battle, but I'm like, I think it's so cool that you're doing this, Deb, and you've worked so hard on this.
Keep at it.
Yeah, and keeping going, and I'm glad that we're here to support you for that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that you're here to support me.
Well, and people on YouTube are commenting, Deb, just that you're amazing, and you're teaching others, and you're teaching us. I mean, you took us from unaware to aware. So even that, and I know you're advocating like crazy, and you're planning for conferences, and wow. And the biggest advocate for all is for your mom. And so you took this desire to do something for her, and you've turned it into something even bigger. And I know that that's very special, and
thank you.
just what a gift for her, and honoring her. That's really,
there's a really, I saw that really cool article that you wrote. So I was going to share that in the chat on YouTube, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us about that. So you submitted an article for the local Alzheimer's Society about your mom. So tell us about that.
They were putting out a fundraiser book. So it's Hearts Linked by Courage. And up here, they've done it on a number of things, but this is honoring loved ones and caregivers on the dementia journey. So there was a call for papers or stories in the local newspaper. And I sent in something, and the lady said, well, we're not sure if we got them all. So I said, well, I'll write my story anyway. So I wrote my mom as a Ruby, and talked about using positive approach to care strategies and techniques, and looking at her, because I figured that many family members don't know how to engage someone who has made it to that state, and how to connect with them. And that it was really important to say, mom's still there. And, you know, we see it in the moments, but these moments are moments of quality. So let's go for them. And so anyway, I went into the newspaper and into the book, and then they did a newspaper article in the local newspaper up at where my mom's home was. So.
So Shelley's going to bring the article up on the screen for people that are watching, and also share the full article. But can you share just a few examples, because you're talking about how to make that connection, connecting beyond the, you know, and you talked earlier about how TIPA shows us what's still there, not what's gone, but how to connect with what's still there. So are there any nuggets that you might be able to share with our viewers of some successes you had in connecting with Mom?
My mother has always loved children. She went back in her 60s and took an early childhood education course. So that's how dedicated she was to children. And so I have an iPad that I bring in that has videos of children on it, so she can watch, or at that point in time, she was watching the kids and movement of the children, and that was really precious for her. So we, you know, my siblings go in and they brush her hair, because that was always one of her favorite activities, and they put cream on her hands and legs, and we always give her a little chocolate treat. And after we give her the chocolate treat, we get eyes open much more often. So yes. Yeah.
So you're talking about touch and chocolate. So really
Taste,
just going back to really sensory based
yes.
connections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And back then she would hold a doll or a stuffed animal or something. So, you know, again, providing her with opportunity for the days that she had a little bit of amber left, and she would, you know, feel up the animal or whatever. So, yeah.
Oh.
Mhm.
Oh, so here we go. So, oh, what a precious picture.
Yeah, there's the article. Take me a minute. I was watching chat while you were two different chats.
Yeah.
So yeah, so actually someone asked a question in chat, Deb. I put it in the chat here. Tinny wanted to know if you're able to, how you got the data on staff turnover and how that was linked to.
Oh, that's some of the like the government documents. So anybody in Ontario want to connect, or Canada or whatever wants to connect with me, please feel free. I can give you my email address.
Well,
So,
I know Tinny is in Georgia.
Okay.
So.
But I mean, that's the ones up here. So I don't know how well it will apply to down there.
Okay.
But just that, I mean, it was abysmal. So my ministry contact is finding out how many of the new graduates that have come out in the last 9 months, how many of them have actually completed the program, because the government paid tuition and paid for your placements. So when you did your clinical placements, you got a stipend. So the stats from before were when people had to pay. So you know, when you have to pay for something, you usually follow through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have to pay for it. So I'm really curious as to how many of those people actually graduated and went into long-term care homes, and that they're following up to find that out.
So I have a question. I'm curious. Have you guys explored bringing our programs into those training programs? Bringing our, you know, is that part of your plan? Is that,
yes.
Is that part of what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah, because I think that it actually Darcy McKay.
Darcy McKay, yeah.
From Ontario he's doing research right now on teaching in the PSW program and seeing what the skill set is like. So he's really going to help me and he has some data to prove that those PSWs who are trained with PAC training, who before they go in for their first clinical placement, have a higher comfort level and more chance of staying on because they have a better toolkit with them. So I'm really hoping that that piece will support us in this.
Nice, I love that. So you and Darcy have connected and are,
Already.
yay.
The power of
Very
the certified community, I'm sorry.
That's right. That's what we're about.
I love it. I love it. It's all about community. Very cool. Well, Deb, anything else that you'd like to share while we have you here? This is just, you're so inspiring. And I know our viewers have been enjoying hearing your story, and you've got a little fan club out there, and Joanna wants to clone you. Anything else you'd like to share before we log off for the night?
Well, just like I said, if anybody in certainly Ontario, Canada, or beyond would like to contact me, I would be honored to connect. So should I let them get my address through you, or just say it on the?
I think that we will we'll put it on the YouTube page.
Okay, perfect.
And they can find you also on the Tipa Snow certified community page.
Right. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you for making that offer. And they can also reach out to us on tipasnow.com if anyone wants to follow up with you. Absolutely. Thank you for making that offer, and thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you're doing. You are a mover and a shaker, and you are making change, and much needed change. And you took us from unaware of some things.
Slowly.
You know what? That's how it is.
Yep.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
But it has to happen. And you've brought us some new awareness tonight, and we thank you for that. So keep up the good work.
Great.
And thank you for taking out time to be here with us tonight. Thank you, Joanna. As always, you have had a very busy week, and appreciate you as always. Yes.
It's only Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Only Tuesday. I know, and it's already been a very busy week for you. Shelley, thank you for being here and getting us live on YouTube, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our final episode of the year.
Great.
With Iris Beer.
Yep.
So see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.